Hello, HR. Where's the candidate?
Outside. Kaje. Good morning, Advocate Dr. Baloy.
Good morning.
My name is Wandando, and I'm the Director HR. With me is the panel that will be interviewing, chaired by the Chairperson of Council, Mr. J. Lecheta.
If I could just introduce the rest of the panel, please. Thank you. Thank you and welcome, Advocate Baloy.
Thank you so much.
It's quite a pleasure to have you here, and for you having come so far to be able to come and address us about your capabilities.
Thank you.
We have a list of panels that are here for this occasion, and if I can introduce them, please.
Thank you.
As the head of HR already mentioned, my name is Julius Lecheda. I'm the chairperson of the council. With me is my deputy, Ms. Makari, the head of the chairperson of the HR committee, Mr. Patrick Thompson, who's joining us virtually, Mr. Salomo, the chairperson of Student Affairs Committee, is here with us, the vice principal and chancellor. So the principal and vice chancellor, Mr. Baron Tambeleni, is the gentleman that's sitting next to me. Our expert, external panel member, Dr. Mabilibili. Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Postgraduate Studies, Professor Feza. Deputy Vice Chancellor, Corporate Services, is joining us virtually, Mr. Martin, Dr. Martin. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Teaching and Learning, he's outgoing, DVC, Professor Crawford. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Teaching and Learning, Professor Kala Mukhele. Our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Krazia. A representative from the Council, representative of Council to Senate, Professor Masweta. I haven't seen her yet, but is she virtual? Oh, she's not here. Okay. Institutional Forum representative, Ms. Makoka. Senior representative, Professor Mashao. Employee Equity Forum representative, I haven't seen her, Ms. Potchitar, she's normally here. Now representative, Mr. Mahashwa. And representative from the Students Representative Council, SRC, Mr. Mafumo. Thank you. I think it's over to you. There is a presentation that you're supposed to be making for us. I'm sure you're ready for it.
Yes.
I think it's about how many minutes? 15 minutes, and then there will be questions, not from the panel, but from the university community.
Thank you so much. I was actually informed that the presentation is for 30 minutes. Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you so much. Firstly, I would like to thank the university and the council for having afforded me this opportunity to come and to do a presentation in respect of the registrar's position. This is how I propose to go about the presentation. So, table of context, but I'm just gonna go straight to it, starting with just a bit of an introduction about me. I'm a native of this community, having been born and raised in the Malamulele vicinity, Kamtititi, and studied, did my matric. Thank you so much. I did my matric in 1990 at a school called Chitlangoma High School, and actually had my first opportunity to study at university here at this very university. The university afforded me the opportunity to improve my life. Having come from an impoverished background, I was the first from my family to ever go to university. I studied both the BJuris and the LLB degrees here, which prepared me for my professional career as a lawyer. And I went further to study for postgraduate LLM and my doctorate. Some of my qualifications are indicated here, and I have over 18 years experience working in the governance space. I thought that I would premise my presentation by just painting a picture about the global context within which universities operate, which is the context within which the registrar operates. And the context within which the universities operate is both at the global, the national, and the institutional level. The global level, we have to be concerned with issues such as the UN Sustainability Development Goals and their impacts, and as well as geopolitical conflicts. For example, the war in the Ukraine, but as well as issues around BRICS and US-China tensions. The war in Ukraine has an impact, for example, in the whole issue around exchange programs for universities and MOUs and research collaborations. And the risk context is also important in this regard. The WEF Global Risk Report highlights a number of risks, including the cost of living crisis and the impact of geopolitical conflicts, but also in particular the issue around technology, where they say technology will exacerbate inequalities. I found that this is important with respect to the whole concept of the democratization of technology, making technologies available for pedagogical purposes. In the national context, we of course are operating within a regulatory framework that was introduced through the National Plan for Higher Education of 2001, which itself was based on the White Paper 3 of 1997, as well as the National Commission on Higher Education report of 1996, which gave rise to the current regulatory framework of the Higher Education Act 101 of 1997. And this national plan provides the policy framework for higher education planning, quality, and resource allocation. And this brings to light questions of university funding, subsidies, free higher education, the missing middle, university debt issues, noting in this regard that there has really been no increase in the allocation of subsidies to universities in the past 2 decades or so, just 0.9 increase in 2022 to 2023. There's an issue of the management of stakeholder relations. We have a number of stakeholders, the department itself, CHE, SAQA, and the like. Issues around enrollment management, academic planning, PQM issues, the HEMICS, data integrity issues, issues around the central application clearinghouse. Those are important issues. And it's important to also look at the institutional context, which in the case of the university is premised on the University Institutional Statute, revised in 2021. The 2021 to 2025 strategic plan is very critical, and roles and policies of the university. In the UNIVEN context, it's important to note that UNIVEN is one of 6 comprehensive universities in the country, which gives it the latitude to offer a wide range of programs, including career-oriented programs, where the university is focused on STEM programs, and the whole issue around indigenous knowledge systems, being the only university in the country that focuses on that. The geographical and demographical dividend is also very relevant, placing the university at an advantage, being placed at the UNESCO-declared biosphere and being declared HDI, and so this really positions the university properly. The risk context, we're looking at risks, and the number of risks have been identified for higher education: digital transformation, hybrid and blended education delivery, student well-being, climate change and sustainability, increased focus on applied learning and graduate employability, falling enrollment rates, increased demand for course bases, falling student retention and completion rates. This comes from this particular source. And the UNIVEN 2021-2025 strategic plan is very critical. I quote your statement, Chair, in the plan, where you observe that the plan provides the basis for efficient and effective implementation and management of the university's academic project, which I believe is very key, putting the academic program or project at the centrality of the university's strategic plan. I'm not gonna regurgitate what the strategic plan provides, because I'm speaking to the converted here. But I just wanted to illustrate that I did go through the plan and looked at various aspects of the plan: its mission, vision, mission, the institutional values, the guiding principles of the plan, and in particular the strategic thrusts and objectives that inform this particular plan. I have just picked up what I believe are more relevant for the registrar's role, whilst acknowledging that as a member of the executive management and the university's epistemic communities, the registrar is responsible for ensuring the delivery of all aspects of the plan. But in particular, the ST1, which is student-centeredness and engaged scholarship, becomes very relevant to the registrar's role, and governance for outstanding scholarship to promote effective institutional governance. Linkages, partnerships, and internationalization become relevant, in particular in relation to the mission of the university of producing students that are, have impact both nationally and in Africa and globally. When you look at the UN Sustainability Development Goals, we find that there are aspects of it that the university can contribute. SDG 1, about no poverty. We are living in an environment, in a community where there's a lot of poverty. And quality education, climate action, life on land, the fact that the university finds itself in this rural environment where the issues around environmental sustainability become very, very integral. I've looked at the comparator group for the university and what the university thinks is important in terms of benchmarking its position, and as well as the fact that the university was sober enough to look at its own areas of weaknesses that that it needs to focus on: lack of integrated institutional planning, lack of integration of data management, silo operation, poor collective of ownership of the university core business, lack of industry relationships, high bureaucratic tendencies. I think these are important areas for the university to focus on. Now, looking at the profile of the university registrar, the role of the registrar in university leadership, this is an old role, in fact, dating back to the 1400s at Oxford University, but the registrar has over the centuries been important in terms of producing and preserving and protecting student records and ensuring the accuracy and integrity of credentials. There are two main functions of this role, which is to ensure the effective functioning of the university's governance and academic structures, as well as ensuring the effective functioning of the university's academic administration, in particular in relation to the student life cycle, what we call the student walk. The registrar must therefore adapt in this regard. We must also look at the statutory role as defined in the Higher Education Act, the institutional statutes. In this regard, the UNIVEN institutional statute, which was revised in 2021, where the registrar is not only Secretary of Council, but also Chief Administrative Officer and Compliance Officer of the university, and responsible for being the custodian of records and documents, and ensuring that records relating to committees and minutes and the like, and being an electoral officer for processes of elections. The university leadership, governance leadership role entails that the registrar is the glue that binds the university system together towards achievement of the institutional purpose and advancement of the academic project. And he must inspire confidence and mediate and galvanize support for the achievement of the academic project in particular. And it's a driving force for achieving the collective vision and mission of the university, and must respond with agility and adaptiveness as appropriate, and provide advice, ensure effective decision-making, and implement constructive interventions. Must display both teamwork and independence, which are very critical. Must lead the university dialogue, governance dialogue, and promote adherence to sound governance principles and ethical practices. Must display the qualities of what has been called the ICRAFT, meaning integrity, competence, responsibility, accountability, fairness, and transparency. And must be able to lead in crisis to ensure preservation of the academic project, which is very key, and sound decision-making in line with the governance framework. There are certain leadership qualities that have been highlighted for the registrars. I've shown them there, taken them from this particular source, the American Association of Academic Registrars and college registrars and academic officers. Now, delving now into the specific areas of the registrar's role, excellence in academic administration. By academic administration, we mean the management and governance of the academic life cycle of the student from application to graduation. So we need to focus on maximizing the life cycle, the student life cycle, the student walk, not just looking at throughputs, but the whole student walk. And we're looking at admissions and registrations, teaching and learning support, final year of graduations, and graduateness, including postgraduate options and lifelong learning. And we see here in this infographic where the student would start here, approaching the university. We have, choosing and applying, registering, and then going on now to the phase of teaching and learning, and then, graduate, and then may decide to be readmitted or, go to the workplace. So these are very important considerations. I've done the life cycle here in a broader view, where we're looking at how this process works from front office, from applications, registration process, the processing of study fee payments, and then loading of studying materials and scheduling of timetables, the learning phase, and then going to this phase of summative and the phase of assessments, both of them, and then looking at arranging examinations, lecturers marking examinations, releasing of results, qualifications, audits. All that becomes very critical for the registrar's role. Ensuring operational efficiencies is very critical in the sense of ensuring that all the student work, starting from admissions, registrations, assessments, and graduation, there's optimization of these processes. And by operational efficiencies, we mean the ability of an organization to reduce waste of time, effort, and materials as much as possible while still producing high-quality services and products. So there's a whole issue of streamlining and automation of selection and admission processes, which is critical, eliminating walks-in, essentially, effective record management systems, integrity of assessment tools and robot processes. We're dealing today with advancing technologies such as the ChatGPT issues, and the use of plagiarism softwares like Turnitin, striving to adhere to deadlines, and automation of formative systems, assessment processes, like electronic submission of assignments, and the use of quizzes, portfolios of evidence, contextualized tasks, question banks, and the like, which saves time and ensure immediate and interactive feedback. Managing and controlling exam paper leaks, and exploring e-credentialing solutions in the award of certificates or programs, and improving effectiveness and efficiencies of the office. There's the issue of ensuring graduation and graduateness capabilities, where there must be a whole support infrastructure for throughout the student work, adequate strategy to address student queries and inquiries, strategy to address student dropout rates, attrition rates, providing support to reduce academic and financial exclusion, support for students with disabilities, addressing qualifications, articulation issues, timeous audit of qualifications, which has an impact on, the student being able to get into the employment world or going further to further studies. Creating a system of remote resolution of queries, self-help solutions, FAQs, reducing walk-ins, and the like. When we now look at excellence in corporate governance, corporate governance as a classical system of a classical system has been defined as a system by which companies are directed and controlled. King 4 refers to the fact that corporate governance is the exercise of ethical and effective leadership by the governing body. I have highlighted that to achieve governance outcomes. So the classical definition of corporate governance depicts a centralized system of governance where the board, or the governing body, the council in this regard, becomes the fulcrum of the governance process. It's a vertical system of reporting from the lower level to the highest level, and management to council to the minister, and so this is very critical. But I'm proposing a more integrated governance model that is in line with developments in governance circles. This system, the university system of governance, it's very important to understand that it's more complex than the traditional corporate governance system. It's more what is called cooperative governance. And cooperative governance means that it's a recognition that policy formulation, decision-making, implementation, and monitoring are separate yet connected functions operating at different levels and at different facets. And it entails principles of that there's no single actor responsible for policies, and competing and complementary interests need to be taken into account. There must be a cooperative framework in the exercise of power. Compare this with the King 4 notion of stakeholder inclusive approach. The Higher Education Act depicts the fact that council is the highest decision-making body, but it is not the only institutional governance structure. There are certain decisions that council may not make unless it does it in terms of the Higher Education Act in a number of scenarios, whether it is in consultation with certain structures, in concurrence with certain structures, with the approval of certain structures, and after consultation with certain structures. These are very important considerations. They have legal ramifications. All of those mean that the council cannot make decisions until the other structures have actually, given their assent to them, except where we speak about after consultation with, which means that the council must consult, but is not required to take the advice. I have highlighted here a number of instances in the Higher Education Act where this applies. For example, determination of entrance requirements requires that this must be done with the approval of the Senate. In consultation with the Senate, revocation of degrees and diplomas, with the concurrence of Senate determining the language policy, and I have mentioned a whole lot of them based on the Higher Education Act. I want to then say that my proposal is that in terms of development in governance circles, we need to have an integrated approach to governance. Whilst we recognize that council is the highest decision-making body, governance must be applicable to all levels of the institution. And I have referred to the concept of integrated governance as espoused by the UN, as well as the ISO 37000 standard on governance, which emphasizes adhering to the institutional purpose. And we then have OECD proposing a quality assurance model of governance, where at every level, everyone must ensure that what they do contributes to the purpose of the institution, the academy, which is the academic project, advancing the academic project. This has also been recognized by the CHE. Recently, 2023 published a good practice guide on student engagement in quality assurance, where students themselves must be involved in quality assurance processes because they impact on them. So this is just a view of how this integrated governance model would apply, starting from gathering knowledge and performance issues, risk management, and compliance. When we look at excellence in student governance, we are looking at the fact that the students are recognized in the Higher Education Act as Student Representative Council as being one of the institutional governance structures focused on issues of the students, but also we are looking at the fact that students must be represented in various structures of the university. The registrar must therefore provide the necessary support to students in respect of that, ensuring that they are represented in all relevant structures, but as well as ensuring that the SRC's role in, fiduciary role in terms of addressing student issues is supported by the registrar's office. The issue of excellence in compliance, as I indicated, the registrar in the University of Venda is a compliance officer. So this is very important. The Principle 13 of King 4 indicates that the governing body should govern compliance with applicable laws and adopted non-binding rules, codes, and standards in a way that supports the organization being ethical and being a good corporate governance. As a secretary of council, the registrar must support that role as well as he being the compliance officer of the university. It must be, the registrar must ensure that there's a compliance management framework that is robust, that takes into account, it includes, a compliance policy, charter, manual, and emphasizes issues around, compliance planning, compliance process, including compliance risk identification, risk assessments, and risk management, and compliance and risk monitoring. And also deal with issues relating to the roles and responsibilities that are applicable. The compliance universe, regulatory universe, these are important issues. The registrar must use a risk management process approach in this regard to look at the compliance universe and looking at things like the university's risk appetite and tolerance mitigation strategies, inherent and residual risk, and then having a governance and risk compliance approach in this regard. So, in conclusion, what I'm saying is that I would want to work with the executive management and the university community to enhance the governance and academic administration of the university. And I would use my expertise, my experience, skills, and qualifications to work towards the achievement of the 2021 to 2025 strategic plan. I would work towards the improvement of systems and processes towards the achievement of integrated governance. And in my first 3 months, I would want to engage rigorously with stakeholders, key stakeholders, including the faculties, students, management, my own team, to understand the pressing issues that require the support of the registrar's office. And I would use the so-called SOAR framework, which focuses on strength, opportunities, aspirations, and results, to ensure that we focus on jointly working together to advance the academic project. I would use this rather than SWOT analysis, because there is a tendency for whenever a new person comes to want to say, I do away with whatever is here and I introduce something new. But I would like to work with the team, because I believe that there are good things that are happening. So we need to focus on what are seen as a strength and the opportunities, so that we work together. I would like at least to look at weaknesses and the like when I have been here for a year and looked at what works and what needs to be improved through engagement with everyone else. At this point, Chairperson, I would like to pause.
I believe at this point we will be welcoming a question from the community of the university.
Thank you, Chairperson. So far, I have one question. If you were to choose between SRC and EMC, what would you do?
Sorry, would you please advise on what EFC stands for in this instance?
If you were to choose between SRC and the Executive Management Committee,
okay,
what would you do?
Thank you so much. I do not think that the concept of choosing is actually the right one to be looking at. It's not about choosing. As I indicated, the registrar's role must mediate relationships and be able to ensure that the academic project is at the core. And this must be made understood to everyone else at the university. Everyone must work towards the advancement of the academic project, you know, both the SRC and the management. So it's not about, I've highlighted the concept of integrated governance, the focus on the achievement of the institutional purpose, which in this case is the advancement of the academic project. We must go back to the purpose. We must go back to what we are about and ensure that we galvanize everyone to work towards that. So I wouldn't choose, I would mediate, I would make people understand what is at stake in terms of achieving the academic project.
Thank you. I'm just checking the platform to see if there's more questions. How will you deal with this pandemic of staff members making applicants pay for admission to the university?
Oh, yes. I think it brings us back to those aspects that have been highlighted as weaknesses, by recognized as weaknesses. I think we need to have a zero approach to unethical practices and ensure that there's compliance at all levels. There must be an integrated approach to ensuring that the university functions as it should. So there must be zero tolerance to everyone that is part of university, is part of this epistemic communities whose sole role and concern is the advancement of the purpose of the academy, which is advancing the academic project. So I would work with my team and with the executive management to ensure that we eliminate such practices.
Chair, I don't seem to be having any more questions on the platform.
Going to give it another 2 to 5 minutes.
What is your stake on admitting students without the input of the department?
I'm trying to think here that by department is meant the higher education department. It's not very clear, but I'm making that particular assumption. I think that you know, it's important to understand that we are operating within a regulated environment. The enrollment plan becomes very, very key in this regard. It's key also in the sense that you know, the subsidy system is dependent on ensuring that we adhere strictly to the enrollment plan and ensure that we work together with the department to look at the needs of the university in terms of the students' intake and align with that particular process. It has a negative impact in the sense that, you know, it then brings in the issues of funding where if you know, the admission of students is not in line with the approved enrollment plan, that would mean that you know, those students would start experiencing funding issues, and we start to experience all these things that then lead to, you know, financial exclusion. So I think it's very important that we have a very robust enrollment management process and plan that takes into account very focusedly the needs of the university and makes a case to the department in respect of what is required.
There's 2 more. How will you ensure that we don't get leftovers from rich universities in terms of student admission?
Yes, I saw that as one of the the issues or weaknesses that has been identified in the plan itself, that the ability of the university to attract students, that high quality students. I think that this requires a joint and effort, university-wide effort, to really focus on highlighting. I looked at the achievements. I studied here, as I said, in the early 90s and also in the early 2000s. And I think the university has really made great strides in terms of positioning itself as a university that is focused on really pursuing the research agenda, being the top 100 university in Africa, being in the top 15 of the Times Higher rankings, and having 43 NRF-rated scholars. I think there's a lot happening with the university that needs. It's very important to communicate what is actually happening, so that students can actually see that this is the university to be at. The university has produced a lot of high-level, high-profile. I've seen my colleagues that I studied with from the early 90s and going forward, who are actually in very high positions, some of them being judges, some of them occupying very senior positions. So this university has actually done a lot. We need to start showcasing that and having a communication strategy that highlights those. That will then make students to see that this is the university to be at.
Thank you. If you were to be appointed as the University Registrar, how will you work with your team to ensure that matriculants who apply get an email immediately with their student number and PIN?
Yes, thank you so much. I have highlighted that fact in my presentation, that we need to focus on operational efficiencies, reducing glitches, and ensuring, we are living in a digital era. We cannot escape that. And it's part of the university strategy itself. Automation of processes and reducing walk-ins is very critical. We have to find a way. There are digital solutions out there that we can look at to ensure that we have a system where we process applications timelessly and effortlessly, and our records management systems are robust to ensure that we avoid delays in those processes. It is something that I would like to engage my team on, and in fact engage the management as well as the faculties to see how best we can actually ensure, because that goes to the core of the academic project. That is what the university is all about. So we should actually put a priority on that.
How will you handle the exam office constantly delaying students' research projects?
Thank you so much. It's that also, if I go back to my slide on operational efficiencies, I have highlighted that. The fact that, it's very critical that we ensure that there are no delays in terms of auditing of qualifications, verification of qualifications, because that causes a situation where students have to be delayed in terms of getting work opportunities, but also in terms of getting opportunities to study further. We must, put a real focus on that and put it as, something that must be achieved without any delay, just to ensure that we deal with whatever the issues are. We go to the core of where the bottlenecks are, so that we can address that particular issue. It has a very negative dire effect on students' abilities to really get into the market and move quickly through their student walk into the next step that they want to be going to.
What is the largest population of students you have administered?
I work for UNISA, which is the largest university in the Southern Hemisphere, with almost 400,000 students. My role is that of currently of Deputy Registrar Governance, but I work with the Registrar's team in respect of all aspects that relate to governance, including student governance and matters of student administration. And we have the registrar's executive committee where we meet and thresh out all these issues. So we are dealing at UNISA in particular with very pressing issues of this large population of students, where we must ensure that we constantly address the issues that need to be addressed, and where you look at the equivalence in terms of the academic team vis-a-vis this almost 400,000 students. We have about 3,000 academics having to service all the students, but this is something that is a constant matter on the agenda to ensure that we constantly address those issues. We have adopted an approach within UNISA that the academic project is relevant for everyone at the university, not only for those involved in student administration. So everyone must demonstrate, even in the performance management plan, how they contribute to the advancement of the academic project. If I get queries, even though I'm not involved directly with students, I must make sure that I address those queries or I route them to the relevant person without delay. So I have operated within that context. I have acted as registrar, I have stints where I acted as registrar and gotten more exposed to areas of student academic administration. So I have a very good sense of addressing those particular issues.
Okay, I'm taking the last two questions. What are your plans to ensure that administration and registration of students is flawless? And the last one, how are you going to ensure that the university is well capacitated to run a smooth online registration process without failures or breakdowns?
We must go back to the strategy of the university. The strategy is there to ensure that we implement, the academic agenda, the academic project. And it is in the strategy of the university that we must put in place robust technological systems that must address this. So we need to then begin to look at how we operationalize this. As a registrar, I look at of course, I'm sure that there's a current registrar's operational plan. I'll look at that and look at improvement plan in terms of what needs to be improved to ensure that we link whatever we are doing to the strategic plan, and in the end link it to the institutional purpose, the purpose of the academy, which is the academic project. So when we talk about technological systems at universities, they must not serve any other purpose except ensuring a robust engagement in terms of advancing the academic projects. We have had this whole issue of the so-called corporatization of universities, where universities start to focus on other matters that are not really related to, look at themselves as corporates and not really focus on the advancement of the academic project. We must go back to ensuring, and as I'm saying, I will not struggle in respect of that, because I will not be introducing something new, something that is not there. I will be looking at the strategy of the university and galvanizing everyone to ensure that let's go back to the purpose of the academy, and let's ensure that our ICT systems actually address this. If you look at this this chart here, this infographic, where I look at maximizing the student work, I highlight here at the middle the importance of the ICT platform in supporting this whole infrastructure. So this is very important and very critical.
Chair, would you allow me to bring just two more?
I think we're fine.
You think we are fine?
Yeah, I think we're fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Advocate Baloy. This is the first session. We will meet in the next session. In that session, we will be participating in the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time once more.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
I'm told tea is ready outside. Maybe let's quickly go out grab the tea, and then be ready for the next candidate. Thank you.
We must set up.
Are we ready?
Drop it a little bit. Yeah, no, it's fine.
Good morning, Mr. Likhodi.
Good morning, ma'am.
Are we live? Okay. Thank you so much for making the time to meet with us. I will hand over to the chairperson of council, Mr. Likheta. And before I do so, I'll introduce myself. My name is Wandando. I'm the director HR. Over to you, chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry. I believe it's been a long drive from that part of the world where you come from.
Yes.
Hopefully it's been a smooth drive. If I can start by introducing myself, my name is Junius Lekheta. I'm the chairperson of council of the University of Venda. My deputy is Ms. Makari. She's here. The chairman of HR committee, who's in virtual, Mr. Patrick Thompson. The chairman of Student Affairs Committee, Mr. Sulumo. Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Ntambeleni. Our external expert from Sifako Makatu Health and Science University, Dr. Mabilibili. Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Postgraduate Studies, Professor Feza. Deputy Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, Corporate Services, Virtual, Dr. Martin. Deputy Vice Chancellor, Teaching and Learning, Professor Crawford, who's outgoing. Deputy Vice Chancellor, Teaching and Learning, Professor Likalakala Mukhele. Our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Krazia. Our representative of Council to Senate, Professor Musetwa. She's not here, but she's part of the panel. Institutional Forum representative, Ms. Makoka. Senate representative, Professor Mashao. Employed Equity Forum representative, Professor Parkhiter, who's not making it today. Nehao representative, Mr. Mukhasho. Representative from the SRC, Mr. Mafumo. Welcome. There is a presentation which is scheduled for 30 minutes. If you could take us through your presentation. Over to you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Chairperson of Council, learned colleagues, and members of distinguished structures of UNIVEN. Allow me, I'm in Venda. I think I've been trying to practice my Venda with my Venda colleagues. Ndimasheroni, Dumelang, Absheni, Molweni, Sanbonani, Dumelang, Tobela. Good morning, Khoyamore, Namaste. I know there's now sign language that is official. We don't know which ones are coming. We'll keep on updating ourselves and improving ourselves. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to come for the interview and the presentation. My presentation, I think I saw two questions. How do I perceive the role of the University Registrar in higher education, which is in a constant flux, and how my leadership will assist in positioning UNIVEN for excellence in academic administration, corporate governance, student governance, as well as compliance. I saw it fit to break it into those sections that I'll try to move faster. Brief historical background of what the registrar is, and believe you me, I'm not taking you through a Registrar 101 course. I think the main aim is to try and see how the position has evolved locally and internationally, and where the registrar is placed within the contextual terrain in South Africa, and maybe within UNIVEN specifically, because every university
has got a different context. The role of the registrar, challenges that we are facing today, and rethinking the office. You'll see as I proceed, positioning UNIVEN as it is requested, Center of Excellence in those areas. And I'll conclude. I think just to start, the term registrar has been there, I think from the medieval times, as you can see there. And this is how the registrar was perceived, to give form and permanence to the University's Public Acts, which is still applicable, to draft letters, to make copies, to register the names of its graduate and examinatory sermons. I think that's what we are doing. We still do that, but it has started a long time ago. Right, there were changes. I think from 1920, they added quite a few of other elements and functionaries in terms of the register. Taking minutes, assisting faculty, so it was increasing as we move forward. Keeping minutes, as you can see, what the registrars are doing. Right, what is the registrar and its role? I think I'll quote Professor Themba Musia when we launched the handbook for registrars, which we developed as registrars to try and guide registrars, seeing that things are changing, and somewhere registrars were a little bit confused, not understanding their roles. So from the registrars in Bizo, we put a team together to try and look at how we can assist registrars. So the book is available as a software and as a hard copy as well. So he said the journey of a registrar is not an attractive one. We'll see why, and it isn't easy, but it is rewarding. So more often than not, when people ask you, what is your job? You say, I'm a registrar. They say, hey, yo, how did you decide to become a registrar? And usually say, there's a job for everybody. There are different types of jobs, and everybody will do what they're supposed to do. The term registrar remains one of the most internationally recognizable terms used to define and describe the positions of senior university administrator. As we know, even in your advert, he becomes the chief administrator of the university. This is how it has evolved. There's no agreement in terms of what the registrar is, and to have a definite definition of what the registrar is. We usually look at what the registrar does, and we try to define the registrar in terms of what they do. Right, on the main, they keep the academic records, which we do, which must be correct all the time, and show integrity and accuracy in anything involved with students' academic history. Facilitate student registrations, make updates to records, evaluate transfer of credits, manage enrollments and verifications, provide reports to the university. Very, very key for decision making, even to DHEAD, audit students' records and clear them for graduation. That is the main, right? The particularity of this occupational group of people called registrars, it really cuts across the board. As you'll see, between governance and administration. You find yourself on governance, you're on administration. You go to student academic administration, or an administrator. You jump to council and senate, you're doing governance. Between senior executive teams and the lower echelons of the business. You are a member of the executive committee. Before you know it, you go to your division as well, you go deep down to academic administrators. Between academic and administrative work, right? We interface, we collaborate with the faculty. Academic administration is about us assisting faculties. But again, how do you run graduations? How do you run exams without operations division, for example? You need invigilators. So across projects, the role of the registrar between academics and support, because you need support staff to assist you to assist academics. Without support staff, you need ICT, for example, to be able to assist students. If you go for online assessment, for example, you can't do it without ICT. So the issue of project management and complexity in terms of collaborations and interacting with other divisions for delivery or support of the delivery of the academic project, it becomes key. Right? That's how I summarize the governance and management matrix at all three levels. At corporate level, that's where we find council, what council does and what it's not supposed to do. We know it must provide oversight. Once it drops down and it encroaches on the second level, which is management, conflict is bound to arise between council and management, as we have seen happening in other institutions, and then at the lower level as well. So in the middle level, most of the time we implement what council is saying, what Senate is saying, and then we must ensure that people who are under us at the operational level implement, because it's not us who are implementing, it's them. But we must make sure that that is happening. So the registrar is within all those three levels in different capacities. At council, most of the time is committee services, assisting with corporate governance and compliance, even at management level, even at the lower level. As a compliance and governance officer, you cut across the board and you must flag whether red flags in terms of really providing advice. We'll come back to that. Rethinking the registrar's role, I think the evolutions and the flux in higher education, as we'll see, in terms of deregulation and funding and other issues where we are sitting, all of them, they provide a different scenario and challenges to the registrar, which needs a rethinking of the position from the medieval times where the registrar was just an administrator. The registrar finds himself all over. And then the question is, how do you really interface? How do you really manage this interest all over the institution? I'll explain that as I go forward. ACRO, which is an American association for registrars and administrators, it says is the hub or the heart of the campus, and for good reason. The registrar's office is central, essential component of the institutional ecosystem. And you see the registrar, he'll always find himself in the middle. It's a center, and if the center doesn't hold, the whole organization collapses. So now, with all these conflicting interests and demands and challenges and powers, because governance structures have got powers. The SRC is a statutory body. They have powers. You must understand their powers. Council has got powers. Senate has got powers. Labor has got powers. All of us, we've got powers as enshrined in the Constitution. But it is quite a challenging task, like Prof. Themba Musia has said, but at the end of the day, it's rewarding. When you see yourself harnessing and coordinating and be able to really hold on in the center, it's so rewarding, and you see things happening in the institution. Of course, it needs a certain type of maturity. It needs a certain type of character. You'll be pulled from all angles. I mean, the SRC can come and say, we see you, comrade, when you're anti-SRC. You don't want to fall this side. You're always in the middle. That's what the registrar must do. When they say that, I say they confirm that I'm in the middle. But I'm not ruffling any feathers. I won't belong to this one, belong to this one, and that. I understand that I must really keep my independence so that I can be able to advise from a governance and compliance perspective. So it needs a rethinking. You know, funding is causing problems today. As the registrar, what are the implications? Students have been defunded. Students now are not in class in many universities. USAF is saying, are we going online? Are we going back to what we were doing during lockdown? If we are going there, those are the implications. Are you ready? Yes. Are the systems in place? Yes. So that we can run. We've learned a lot through COVID, from academic administration, from online learning, from running the university. We're paying staff from outside. Everything was happening from outside, including research. We learned a lot in terms of online systems where we joined. We couldn't travel anymore but we went online and the university business was continuing. Right? The challenges, identify and identity and leadership problems. There's quite a lot. I mean, many universities get administered from time to time. And when you read the observers and administrators report, you'll find this issue there. New frameworks or management models that are coming from time to time. I think DIET now is changing the formations of universities. They're busy with that. We don't know when it lands, where we land, and then we'll have to start to change and adjust. Rise of public accountability. Universities, since 2014 reporting regulations, there's so much that is wanted from universities. Media reports, annual reports, APPs, and all those issues. HEMIS, who must provide information around June. So there's a lot of compliance that is coming. Increased state interference. We usually say we are autonomous. We know those politics. But there's a lot of state interference. Treasury, for example. I'm giving you money. Will the PMFA come down the line, or will it be forced? We don't know. We'll see. We have seen a change in our audit committees. They always say, have the Auditor General. You appoint new auditors, you must get a comment from the Auditor General in terms of that audit campaign so that you can make a decision. So we are seeing that encroachment coming in. In fact, registrars find themselves faced with a situation of constant flux, having to adapt to change and to make rapid decisions concerning priorities. Technology. I'm busy on the technology space. I mean, our library director, they've got an app that is integrated with ITS, where students can talk to the director directly, but within the platform of ITS, not outside, in terms of queries, inquiries, and challenges, so that she can address them very, very quickly. And she said, Registrar, I think you must have this, given the number of inquiries and challenges in your office. You are the face, parents, students, and everybody. And I said, no, fine, let's look into it. Right? How the role has evolved over the years, 6 perspectives. Registrars are insiders. They are providers of influential service, we'll see, driver of possible change, enforcers of policy, and propagators of innovation. If you are the registrar and you are not innovative, especially from a technology point, you'll find serious challenges. When I arrived at the University of Mpumalanga, there was no ITS. The first challenge I had during junior exams, the SRC registrar, where are the results? We took over from the Lawfeld College. They were doing everything on spreadsheets. There's the government rules. You are not going to put students' results on the notice boards like we grew up, where we would go and look at the notice boards because of Bahia as well as Popia. What do I do? Then I had to innovate. I had to use their cell phones. And I talked to somebody that I met in Richards Bay when I was in Zululand. The lady was running an IT company. She said, no, just give me the spreadsheets of the marks. And then I got permission in terms of the Popia, and then the lady processed them through the cell phones. Voila, the students got the marks. But there were still challenges because I know the functionalities of ITS. And I said, VC, we need ITS as in yesterday. So it was introduced first in the registrar's office. And I got a lady that I met when I was working in MUT who worked at ITS. And she was on pension. She came, she assisted us to really put ITS as you see it in UMP. After it was running at the registrar's office, we extended it in terms of its modules. We put HR, we put finance, we put space. We are running ITS. Right? This is what they need to have. You need information as the registrar. Everybody needs answers from you, from parents, students, lecturers, everything that they want. I was a school principal, I learned from that. If you are a school principal, there's no marketing, finance, you do everything. You are a generalist. So the registrar's position is assuming that role as well, where everybody, because you are the contact, you are the first point of entry of the university. You know, parents, they want something, they have an issue of finance, and as fast, they write to you. You'll have to assist them the way you know how, without ruffling the feathers in finance. Work with finance to assist you, to assist these people. Show them, you know, the ways. Providers of influential service, I've just listed a lot. That list is not exhaustive. Custodian of legislation, you know. You deal with university calendars. If the calendar is not ready, it's chaos. So you really drive the order and the direction. Governance, compliance, and legal services, you must be up to date. Information requests, you become the deputy information officer. You must be close to the office of the regulator. You must know PAIA, you must know POPIA. I mean, MIE, for example, it will want information about students, want information about staff. If you don't put those mechanisms quickly in place and make sure that you don't ruffle the feathers with data subjects or the owners, you will find yourself in trouble. I think there's a new one now, even the pictures. If you take pictures in the university during events and you want to use those pictures in the catalogs, you must be careful, because the people that those pictures they're in, you must engage them. We know it's the property of the university because it happened within the university, but you don't want to fight unnecessarily. Once people understand their rights, they start to fight in terms of really protecting the rights. Policy development, committee administration, student administration, records and archives, very, very, very much important. Some registrars are ombuds already. I know Advocate Lambani, who were with him in our ombuds initiatives that we are doing with University of Cape Town. We even joined the International Association of Ombuds. Because people today have got grievances. Where do they really cry out? So do we put mechanisms? The head usually ask us, CHE when they come, how do you deal with grievances? Do you have a grievance procedure? So if you've got the mind of an ombud, you'll be able to really search and put those processes in place. Driver of positive change. The registrar is the one who's really next to the students more than anybody else. So the changes in technology, for example, when the students come to you, can see sometimes they're way ahead of you in terms of technology, and you're worried that, hey, I'm not catching up. ICT, how can you assist so that I'm on their level? So they are drivers of change, and the universities can really use the registrars to really drive a change. Enforcer of policy and propagation of innovation. Like I said, people see us as, you know, policemen, because when you want people to comply, it's like you're policing them. But the approach, because the registrar must give what you call interested and disinterested advice. So sometimes it's not nice for people to hear that they don't have to do this. This is what the law is. This is what the law says, because they want to do that anyway. So that's it. So we are enforcers of policy, but we advise. We don't just only try to really say to people, no, you are violating, you are violating. You must advise, give an advice. It's not about you. It's not you who's talking. It's the position that's talking. Right? Being student-centric, I mean, your strategic thrust number one is straightforward. So how can the registrar be student-centric? Especially that the registrar deals so much with students. Do you put student first as the registrar? Do you listen to every problem? When I'm in a lift, I find students, I greet them, ask them their name, I introduce myself, I'm the registrar. I want them to be close to me. I want to talk to students, I want to know their problems. You know, I want to see how our office is assisting them. Because students today are not like us. You know, we grew up, the only time you saw the registrar is when you are having problems with the rules. Or you'll see him during registration, during graduation, and the vice chancellor. We are in a different world altogether. My life revolves around students. I mean, I've always been with students. I was a teacher, I was a principal. It has been my life. Without students coming into my office asking these emails, I'm like, hey, is everything really going well? Because that's where really my life is. Given the breadth and depth of responsibility, knowledge base, and access to data, the modern registrar can help an institution become truly student-centric and provide a positive student experience. The guidance of data, I've talked about that. What is important here is protect the data, make it credible. So the system that you are using, you'll see as we move, are very, very much important. The academic structure, for example, you get it wrong, the whole is a mess, because exams depend on that, everything, graduations, right? Positioning UNIVEN as a center of excellence, this one is important, setting strategic direction. It's very, very, in all my areas, it will be very, very much important. So that I align that to the vision strategic plan of UNIVEN, and the value chain model, the ARISE, is very, very much important. Number two, employ the correct people. I think your strategic plan is clear. This is an enabler. Get the wrong people in wrong places, you leave it forever. You know, I was impressed about the intensity of the profiling for this position in terms of the aptitude test, because the profiling, the personality is important. You know, every position needs certain aptitudes as well as competencies. If you don't match them, once that person is running, it creates a conflict within a person, and it can come out in different ways. You don't want to go there. You want to get it right at the input level, to say at least we think we have the right person. I mean, the fact that it's an enabler of your strategy, you'll depend on people to really drive the strategy. It's there in your strategic plan. So it's key that you get the right people. Building a management team that will work independently. You delegate. You know, you don't want a situation when the registrar is sick, then the whole train can't move. Much as there's a lot about this position, but delegate, train staff so that if you are not there, they can be able to move on their own. Right, monitoring, evaluation, and quality assurance. I think this one is important. Quality assurance systems must be there. Monitor and evaluate. CHE, when they come, they want to see what you have and whether it's working or not. It's not only for CHE, it's not only for internal and external audit, it's for efficiency. Now, your value, the first value or principle in your strategic plan is excellence, quality and excellence. So if you've got quality systems in place and you implement them and you monitor them using both internal and external audit, CHE will come automatically through their own cycles, but internally you must be able to do that. Right, academic administration, efficient, effective student academic administration is crucial to achieving the university. That is what is there in your strategic plan. It talks to the registrar as an enabler. Get your story right in terms of supporting the academic project of the university. From a technology point, from people's point, because you are the first point of contact. It's important that you make a good impression. Your staff members must understand that. Your systems as well. Everything in the registrar's office talks to the customer. Faculty, academics, it's a customer. So it's not only external customers, even internal ones, especially academics. Right? That's the student life cycle, from inquiries to alumni. Very, very much important. Understand that life cycle and your role as the registrar. And how do you offer quality? How do you make sure that UNIVEN will deliver on its strategic objectives? So you always keep on checking that. So you make the strategy, the statute, everything, policies, rules. That is your Bible. Right? Positive academic administration like I'm saying, from enrollment or from inquiries to alumni. It is incumbent upon the registrar to make those experiences positive. Because if you miss it there, the complaints, I mean, students complain everywhere today. As registrars, we get emails from TED about the complaint. They want to see what you did about it. You must respond. Students go to the Human Rights Commission. We've got that. I've dealt with those issues. Where SRC, the old SRC that we found was still implementing initiation programs. We didn't know when students were initiated. I mean, in boarding school, those things happened. We had to stop it. But we stopped it when we got a letter from the Human Rights Commission. And we're like, hey, is this happening under our noses? Effective and efficient academic admin, governance and management processes. It's important. You know, those processes, and they must be documented. The academics, where they involved everybody, they must know the role that they are playing, because if one role player is not coming to the table, it becomes a problem. So as the registrar, you must know how to massage all these people, because you can't run a project without them. So you must make them aware of their roles. You must get the buy-in. So your management style will be able to really assist you to do that. Academic admin technology, I've talked about that. ITS is our bedrock in many organizations. Others use PeopleSoft and so forth. But I think 23 universities, public out of 26, they use ITS. Mobi ARS, it will help you to rate applications, application wizard as well. There's a new one, Infinity, because now we want to automate. You know, today you can study from anywhere in the world because the system will do everything. You know, if you've got, I mean, because of massification in higher education after 1994, you are looking for 10,000 or 15,000 students, you get 400,000 applications. And you want people to go and do them one-one. That alone, it shows you that you are not moving with technology. And then CellCAT timetabling HIDA helps with HEMIS. It's aligned to HEMIS. Our information system, it must be up to scratch. The academic structure informs HEMIS. And then today is 5 million, the penalty. Right, benefits of ICT, paperless industry, your value of sustainability and being environmental stewards is very, very much important. It comes in there. You save cost, time. We've seen what happened during COVID. Universities saved a lot of money, not only universities, I think the government and corporations as well. Registration, reports and record keeping, very, very much important. There are national standards in terms of record keeping, communication as well, the acts on communication. We don't want to flout them, but we want to keep within our lane and make sure that our information is complete, is reliable, and it has got integrity. E-records, I cannot talk much about that. It's important today, especially as a backup as well. We'll all remember what happened in one of the universities in the Western Cape, where there are records and archives building when there were fires from somewhere. And then it was the question of, will they be able to get that information, especially research and so forth. So institutional memory is important. Efficient, effective HEMIS data management, I've talked about that. It's an enabler. You must make decisions. You need correct information. The government needs correct information. And as far as now, with what is happening, did you send the correct information register? You make a mistake there, you'll have to live with the mistake. So those are some of the issues. Corporate governance, we all know that. IF, Senate, management, committee, student reps, and convocation. Those are the main. Right? The registrar cuts across all of them. He serves all of them. They've got their own different interests. I think this one I'd already talked to. I won't talk to. Right. The registrar work at the intersection between various groups to enable the institution to fulfill its purposes. Each of these constituencies tends to see the registrar as a source of advice and information, someone responsible for holding them together, somebody who's a protective tissue within the institution. Everybody looks for answers from you. Relationships, these are the main, what registrarship is all about. But I've picked that one of the Vice Chancellor for reasons better known to you. Once there's a conflict between the Vice Chancellor and the registrar, that can bring the whole institution to a collapse. I didn't pick the one between management and council. This is about the registrar. That's another story. But as the registrar, you always want to be on the same side with the Vice Chancellor. Right? You must be aware that you are seen as somebody who's holding the integrity of the university. You're holding so much information. You must operate, you must mediate or operate in subtle ways without ruffling the feathers. You don't want to be toe-to-toe with the Vice Chancellor. If you feel that we are not agreeing in a meeting, VC with really good spirit, can I come and talk to you? Then you'll go and say, hey, VC, this is what I see. This is what the act is saying. If we go this way, this is where we land. These are the risks. Then the VC might change their mind. But if you are in a meeting, it can't be a blow by blow. You've got to respect as well, which is one of the principles here. You must be a good referee. There'll be fights. Who controls the game but does not interfere? Don't get involved. I'm a member of BF, Bargaining Forum. Now, usually at the Bargaining Forum, I force committees in doing things. And Labour would always want to step out. I said, no, we are members of the BF. We are one here. If the BF fails, nobody will say it's Labour or management. All of us are taking the blame, so that you encourage cooperative governance. And if you are sitting at BF, I'm wearing the cap of management, but I'm BF. I must make sure that the bargaining forum will be fine. Right? The qualities that you must have rise above any form of internal tensions, not become distracted by institutional micropolitics, maintain strategic passivity, exercise a great deal of independence and autonomy, give advice, internal or interested or disinterested. Sometimes you give it, people they don't want to hear what you are saying because it is not in line with what they believe. But if the law, the act says this, that's what it says and nothing else. And it's not about me. Tomorrow I'm not the registrar, I'm gone. The act stays. So somebody must come and make sure that it gets followed. Provide support to all governance structures, corporate governance responsibilities that we know he supports elections, induction, and development of all the structures, including the SRC. Give advice, protect the integrity of the university. Factors that are influencing your space, contextual complexity, whether national. Now the issues of NSFAS are national, but they'll come into your office. And UNIVEN context is different from UMP. So when you land there, you must learn fast, because you can't say at UMP this is what we used to do. No, it might not work here. Internal arrangements, opportunities, desires, and aspirations of the university. Everybody, every structure has got its own aspirations. Institutional politics, understand them, the needs of the wider society. The registrar and the VC, the registrar, what works is when the registrar and the VC are almost one. The registrar is the reflection of the VC. I'm not saying the VC is good or it's not good, but I say at least that works. Right? In South Africa, two extremes, genuine partnership, where they work in harmony. They're always together. And then the other end is where they're apart. And then once they're apart, corporate governance and compliance falls apart. Any other relationships that are between these two continuums. So the first one is the most ideal one. So you have to manage the vice chancellor as your boss to make sure that you don't clash. But we are not saying you become a yes man. A yes man. I mean, your profile, you must know how to really talk with him, where you see that. Because your advice, you must give advice. You don't challenge, there's a difference. Don't give advice in the guise of challenging. No, give advice. Right, compliance. This is what Smith has said. Every day I put the statute, the act, and everything on my table, on my laptop. It's my Bible. Right, in a nutshell, that summarizes governance. From the Constitution, the department, the acts going forward, to the heart where the university is, statutes, policies, and all this, delegations. The Constitution is the supreme law. We should understand how it affects us. People have got rights, we shouldn't trample on their rights without really foregoing the business of the university. The Bill of Rights, we know it. Corporate governments at national level, CHE drives it through, DA drives it through CHE. Here we drive it through the institutional forum. Right, acts, the Higher Education Act is the main one. And then there are other key acts, as we all know. So we must always know what is really affecting us. Regulations, there are different regulations, but the most key ones is reporting regulations. That came in 2014. And this is what they cover on the main in terms of what we should do. Reporting. This is what we are requested to report, quite a lot. And then we have been complaining, hey, it's a lot of administration, it takes a lot of our time and all that. We don't have time for students, but we need to comply with these things. Once you put systems and process in place, we'll be able to deliver. And if they're in the APP, you track them, totally. We track them through the Strategy Committee of Council so that we can see where there are red flags. The chairperson will always say anything that we should worry about, which is a red flag, then the VC will answer. But last time you reported this, even now you are reporting this, what's happening? So at least it keeps you on your toes. And then you'll be able to deliver. You are not only delivering for ticking the box with DA. These things, they've got strategic meaning if you go deeper into them in terms of how you run your business. Then we've got the statutes, which implement the act. We amend them from time to time. You have amended yours as well, I've seen. Rules and regulations that are approved by council. And then we've got policies of the institution as well. Policies, procedures, and guidelines. I mean, they've got different legal meanings. Policies are legal. Procedures might change. That's why we don't put them in the policy, because once they're in the policy, you want to change a procedure. Every year you must go back to council. And guidelines, policy review, you have a checklist. Policies must be relevant. That's the long and short. There are different reasons that will make them to be relevant because of the changing environment in higher education. So I'm listing some of them there. Delegations, codes of conduct and ethics. Council delegations is a book that is very, very much important because it shows the powers that we have to make decisions. You don't want to find yourself having signed a contract that you are not supposed to sign. And when there's a legal battle there, somebody suing you for 20 million, they find that you have signed and you didn't sign and the VC didn't even see the contract. So those are the issues. Codes of conduct for staff, for council, senate, everybody, to regulate the conduct, conflict of interest in governance, very, very, very much important, very, very key. And then an ethics policy or code will really bring the issues of ethics into the table. They are there in your strategic plan as well. Then you've got charters. The committees without charters, it will be difficult for them to deliver on their mandate. So what we do with all the committees, charters are part of the pack, so that if you argue about something, you just go straight into the pack. Compliance underpinnings, you must know the regulatory environment and its amendments. I've subscribed to LexisNexis. They send me changes in legislation, new cases every day. LabourNet, labor cases and all that. So it's important to be up to date. Regulatory accrediting bodies, Umalu, CHE and its council, you have to know those. External bodies, SAQA, Home Affairs, tax licensing, and all those issues. It's important that you have that legal background as well. Professional associations, Institute of Directors South Africa, compliance and governance, there's a lot there. The American Council for Registrars and Administrative Officers, registrars in Bezo in South Africa comes in handy. Have a compliance checklist for the institution. I keep that one. I report it on it quarterly. Be in touch with DHEAD, NSFAS, USAF, University Council, and IF chess forums, SAUS, unions. Know what's happening in your space. You are not going to say anything outside the university commenting. USAF has commented now on the issue of NSFAS. So if SRC come to me, Registrar, we request your support. What do you think? I'll say USAF has responded on behalf of the university. If you read there, we note those challenges as well as management. Unless you get quoted, even if you say, I'm saying it without prejudice, they'll quote you. Right, student governance is legislated. SRC is a statutory body. The statute of UNIVEN, section 822, 83, UNIVEN SRC constitution and code of conduct in terms of how the SRC carries on with its business. Right, the registrar's role here, improving quality of student leadership, increasing student leadership participation in student governance, as well as institutional governance, because you must make sure that all these committees are important, the SRC is there. So what we do, we request the names every year, who are the new members of the SRC in all these portfolios, at Senate, committees of Senate, where they are members. Induction and training of student governance, immediately they must be trained after they take office. Strategic collaboration, partnerships, and internationalization. I think our dean has done a good job there, in terms of our collaborations, having exchanges. Students go to Makerere, they go there, they see something else. They start to appreciate what they have. For example, as an example, they go to Mozambique. They don't have Wi-Fi in one of the universities. So we've got Wi-Fi. They start to see those things because it's important so that they can start to compare themselves internationally, regionally, and nationally. Take them to UNIVEN. Take them to Canada if you've got let them see. Because sometimes they fight, but other students don't have that. A lot of them, especially in Africa, which is strategic thrust number 4 in your strategic plan. Assisting the development review of student policies and the constitution so that they're up to date. Assist the implementation, advice, and interpretation of the student and resident disciplinary code. If there are issues, assist there in terms of interpretation, providing them with information, rules, and procedures. Provide students with information, especially leaders, they want to make decisions. Support and conducting SRC elections, facilitate communication between the students and executive management. Do we have scheduled meetings between the students and the dean, between the students and the manager student governance, between the wardens going down the line? Are those structured so that we can report on them? Because what is important, if you keep constant communication and cooperative governance and involving students, they are not prone to really making noise. And then you create a situation where they come to you. Students, most of the time, you don't want to learn about demands of the students when they write a letter to you, they make demands. And you say, but why didn't you tell me? We could have solved this. But did you create that? Right, in conclusion, I would like to quote Kimberly Kamaso, who's the registrar at Emmanuel College, Queensland, Australia. Often students think we create academic policy, but really we are more like the academic policy guardians. We are tasked with upholding academic policy and applying it consistently. While we do have to enforce policy, we do our best to be flexible and accommodate where we can. We are very, very much flexible. It's not like we are robots because we are governance and compliance officers. You look at the context and you advise management in terms of a decision that should be taken. I think that's the end of my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khori. We will now take questions from the university community.
Okay,
Questions from the panel will be taken in the next session.
okay. No, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. There are quite a few questions coming through from the floor. The first one is, if you were to choose between SRC and EMC, which is Executive Management Committee, what would you do?
Okay, let me try to know them. I've heard that one.
Should I give you another one?
Yes.
You are already a registrar in a more advanced university. Why would you want to move for the same position?
Okay, let me take that one. What was the first one, by the way?
If you were to choose between SRC and EMC, what would you do?
Next one is, why do I apply for same position?
And then let me give you the third one. You spoke about massaging stakeholders. How are you currently massaging the SRC? I'll pause there and then I'll give you.
Then I'll take others, no problem. Right. Choosing the SRC as compared to the EMC, I think I've went to town with that. You don't have to choose anybody. Be independent as the registrar. That's your position. Give advice accordingly to all the stakeholders. So I usually get students in different formations. You get the SRC, you get SASCO, you get EFF students. They'll come. I don't say I'm listening to the SRC, I'm not listening to you. If SASCO comes, I listen. I say, I've heard what you said, but there's an SRC constitution. No, don't tell us about the SRC. I say, yes, but there's an SRC constitution. Did you go to the SRC to report the matter? Because that's what governance is all about. I will tell them, but rather go to them. No, I said, no, look, we don't want to be involved in politics because once I listen to you, I take a decision. I'm ruffling feathers somewhere. So you balance. It's not about SRC versus EMC. I'm a member of EMC. Surely, I don't want to go to EMC, then they say, you said this to the SRC. You side with the SRC. Now you're creating problems. So maintain your independence. So listen, and then provide advice accordingly. Like you'll do it to EMC, you'll do it to Senate, you'll do it to the IF, to everybody. And make them understand your position as the registrar. Sometimes they don't understand it. Sometimes the forces will force you to go left or right. You don't have to. Without ruffling feathers. Make them understand. And it's so nice when the SRC president says, Registrar, I understand your position. Then I become happy. Then we are able to work together. But if he draws the line, he says it's either you are this side or this side, I'll explain that I don't have to be on anybody's side. I'm holding the university together. I don't want to be part of the conflict of the university. It won't augur well for this office, let alone the university. Number two, why apply?
If I could just come in here.
Yes.
I'm worried about time, so let's try and get the responses short as possible. We have additional 10 minutes, so that by 10 or so should be done. Thanks.
Why apply for the same position? I think, much as it is personal, I will answer it. It's not to say one is applying for this position only. I think one has gathered experience. If there might be a position of a DVC that I would have seen, I would have applied. One. Two, we're working in terms of contracts. Our contracts come to an end. You are not going to be there forever, especially at senior level. So the statute is clear. you might get a second term, but you are not sure you'll get a third term. So it makes sense at the end of the day towards the ending of your contract to start to see opportunities. And again, taking what you have learned to other spaces to go and make a difference, add value, be part of management that is pursuing objectives as well. SRC massaging, I think it goes with one that I've answered. That's how I massage them. I don't have to dangle anything to make them do something. It's about really standing my ground and explaining my position. To me, that's how I massage. It's not only SRC, labor as well is there. So I massage labor. Not only labor, deans, for example, head of departments or schools. You must learn how to work with them. It's an art that you learn, and it needs a certain level of maturity. Because you want these people on your side. It doesn't mean you give in to everything. Tell them principle. They must understand that you are working on principle. They will understand, and then they'll come along.
Thank you. How will you deal with the pandemic of staff making prospective students pay for admission into the university? And the next one, what plans do you have to ensure that admission and registration of students is flawless and we don't get leftovers from rich universities?
Okay. Right, I think the issue of staff paying is unethical. The code of conduct of any university will have unfaithfulness inside, and the sanction is there. Most of the time, it's dismissal once done. So if staff members cross that line, you go to the staff disciplinary code, you implement. It's unacceptable because if it goes out, it damages the reputation of the university. You don't want it to be there. So you workshop staff from time to time together with HR not to go there. Number two, flawless admission so that we do not get leftovers. I think massification of higher education in South Africa after 1994, it has created a disjuncture between supply and demand. That one we cannot run away from. But when students apply, the best way is to respond immediately. I think we used to say we give you 3 weeks to take the position. If you don't pay, you don't get it. We used to move there, but I think 3-4 years ago, with the advent of Fees Must Fall, things changed. I think for the first time, I think 2 years ago, we got an email from our colleague at VET. He says, we don't have students. Do you guys have students? And we're like, oh, what's happening here? Because they were used to fill in positions. By October, they're done. And then we'd get, other universities dealing with the leftovers. They used to have it, but now Fees Must Fall has changed everything. And the fact that now many of the black students are in university, if you look at demographics, and many of them are funded by NSFAS. It comes with the change as well. Because those students don't have the money to take the position. You'll have to wait for NSFAS to give you the funded list, maybe in February. So the whole ball game has changed. So these are just numbers most of the time. To say we need 15,000 students as a University of Venda, and then you've got 300 CT, and then you are struggling in January. But we have made offers. Where are these guys? So there are other things that are playing in other spaces, and students choose today where they go. And you make an offer, the student doesn't say, no, I'm not interested in your offer. I was taken by UJ or UCT. The student doesn't tell you. But on the main is to try and finalize registrations as they happen. We give ourselves 2 weeks in terms of the turnaround time, from applications until applications first, you must acknowledge within 2 weeks, and then make a decision within 4 weeks at least to the students so that they know the status. But the flip side, we know that if we have given offers, for example, other universities give 200%. We're saying let's give 20 more, let's give 30. It's increasing every year. Other universities that I know, they're already beyond 100 because the offers that you make is not bumps on the seat. You'll only know in January when students register. When you're busy now looking at the registration statistics, you say, hey, we're not making it. Where are these students? You start to phone them, others are not interested. There are a lot of issues. But give more so that you'll always be able to get them. Sometimes it's more, they're not meeting requirements. So those are the technical issues. But the safest, you have numbers, you see you have admitted. Whether they'll come or not, you'll see in January because you've got to monitor the statistics every day as management. But the long and short to this question, make offers on time. You'd rather have numbers there. You'll deal with the challenges in January. Yes, ma'am.
These are the last three
The last
questions.
question. Can I take only one last question?
Okay. What is the largest population of students you have administered?
The largest I've administered was in Zululand. I think it was around 16,000. MUT was a little bit below that. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Khori. Thanks for the presentation. We will meet in the second session,
Okay, Chair.
wherein the panelists will pose questions to yourself.
Okay.
Let's just be conscious of time, even in the next session.
Okay.
Thanks.
No, thanks, Chair, and colleagues and the community.
Behind, we are 15 minutes behind time, so we're going to catch up.
It's for that one.
Can we just try and make sure that the external questions, we have those that we post with the first panelist, first presenter. Let's try and stick to the first questions that were presented. Let's be more consistent. No, I saw that one, yeah. But I think let's stick to those. Yeah. Thank you. I think we're ready for the next candidate, please. Yes. We can do the.
Yes, thank you. Am I ready?
Good morning, Ms. Ross.
Good morning. Good morning, ma'am.
How are you?
Nervous, but excited.
My name is Wandando. I'm the Director HR.
Pleased to meet you.
Thank you for making the time to meet with us. This panel is being chaired by the Chairperson of Council, Mr. Leketa, and we do have the university community listening or watching these proceedings. Over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Ndo. Welcome, Ms. Ross.
Good morning, sir. Thank you.
We first want to thank you for making the time and also for having showed interest in joining our university.
Thank you.
I will introduce members of the panel, starting with myself. My name is Junius Leketa. I'm the Chairperson of Council. Next to me, sorry, just further down, is my deputy, Ms. Makari, the Deputy Chairperson, somebody joining us virtually, the Chairperson of HR Committee, Mr. Patrick Thompson. He's not here, he's on the virtual. Okay. Chairperson of Student Affairs Committee, Mr. Salomo, he's attending. Next to me is the Vice Chancellor and Principal, Mr. Ntabelele. Our external expert from Sefako Makhato Health and Science University, Dr. Mabilibili. We also have a Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research and Postgraduate Studies, Professor Feza. Our Deputy Vice Chancellor of Corporate Service, Dr. Martin, is joining us virtually. Our Deputy Vice Chancellor of Teaching and Learning, Professor Crawford, is however on his way out from the university. We have Deputy Vice Chancellor, Teaching and Learning, Professor Lekalakala Mukhele. Our Chief Financial Officer, who's here with us, Mr. Krazia. Representative for Council to Senate, she's part of the panel, but she's not in attendance today, Professor Musweta. Institutional Forum Representative, Ms. Makuka, is here with us. Senior Representative, Professor Mashao. Employed Equity Forum Representative, Professor Porkitar, she's not here with us today. Nehao Representative, Mr. Mokhashwa. And representative from the Student Representative Council, Mr. Mafumo. Thank you, welcome. We have a presentation to make. I must apologize, we're running few minutes, 15 minutes behind schedule. You've got 30 minutes for your presentation, and then another 15 minutes for Q&A. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair of Council and VC and all the other dignitaries. I first want to extend my gratitude for being allowed to be here and being bestowed the honor to address the community today. When I drove here yesterday afternoon and I passed the Nail Toll Plaza, I always get the sense of coming home. I was born in Limpopo and I've been out of the province for 22 years, and it's an honor being invited back. It's not part of the presentation, but it's definitely, it would be wonderful to spend the last chapter of my career in my home province. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here. At present, I am called the Director of Planning and Special Projects in the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor Teaching Learning at the Northwest University, which is a really fancy name for basically doing everything the DVC says and being like the Chief of Staff in the office. So the role is a coordination role between the 8 faculties. You know that the Northwest University has 3 campuses, 8 faculties, 65,000 students, of which about 55,000 are contact students. And the role is to ensure that the academic project proceeds. I'm a connector between the faculties, the DVC's office, and the various support departments, like the Registrar's office, facilities and infrastructure, finances, etc. And of course, we also work a lot with our colleagues in research and innovation. Again, thank you for being here, for allowing me to be here. The brief, which I assume was the same for all the candidates, was to give an exposition of my perception of the role of a registrar in a university, and then also to indicate how I think I would assist UNIVEN in attaining its goals and excellence, in particular in academic administration, corporate governance, student governance, and compliance. So I broke it up into 3 sections just to assist everybody listening as well. First being what I see the role of the registrar to be, and then very particularly linking the registrar's office with the strategic goals, objectives, and values of the institution, and lastly, a little bit about how I see my contribution playing into all of this. So you may know that a picture speaks 1,000 words, and I will try to explain what this picture means without using 1,000 words. I see the office of a registrar as something akin to a central station or a transport hub. Station or an airport, but let's use a station as an example, where buses and trains and cars and people come in and come out. It's never a final destination. It's never the highlight of the trip. It's not where people necessarily say, I want to go there and I want to be there. But without this hub and without the interchange in this hub, nobody will reach their destination, and nothing will get to where it's supposed to be on time. Whether it's freight coming in, going out, coming in on a train, going out on a truck, whether it's a pedestrian coming in, getting on a bus or a train to go somewhere, that is the role of the registrar's office in a university, for me. It's at the same time the glue that's keeping it all together and the mechanism that makes it run. And in order for a university to function properly and to function effectively, this particular office needs to be well organized, it needs to be properly staffed, it needs to be adhere to all the plans that have been put in place, and it needs to be welcoming. And without those qualities, it won't be the optimal service rendered to the university community. So besides all the statutory, and I'm referring to the legislation, the Higher Education Act, the Statute of the University, whatever else is listed in all the task agreements pertaining to a registrar, I see this as the core function. And to bring it a little closer to home, looking at your website, I thought of it as that little red wheel in the middle, making it all turn around. So that is what my perception is of the Office of the Registrar, and I'll come back to it in the next section. Because if one has a look at the strategic plan of the University of Venda, which is, I need to mention this, it is incredibly effective because it is so user-friendly and it conveys the message in such a powerful way that it's very difficult to capture it on a slide. But I wish to submit that the registrar plays a role not only in attaining all the values that the university strive to achieve, which of course as a lawyer with a strong public law background in constitutional law and fundamental rights and administrative law, I'm very excited about. It needs to live the values in every interaction with every member of staff and with every single student crossing its path. And it needs to ensure that these values are adhered to and are taken into account in its planning, in the execution of its duties, and I would also venture to say in reporting, in being transparent, in being respectful, and most importantly, acting with integrity. I also want to submit that the University Registrar has a role to play to attain each and every one of the strategic thrusts. And I know, and I'm going to come back to number 3, which is, in my view, the registrar's responsibility. But even if one has a look at the first strategic thrust of being student-centered, the office has a direct role to play in strategic objectives 1 and 4, in my view. Student success is strongly supported by the mechanisms and by the processes a university implements to guide them through their learning journey. If a student is not properly aware and properly advised on curriculum planning, on the trajectory of their studies over the minimum study period, they won't be able to do their own planning. And that is, in the first instance, where I see this office playing a role, where a student knows what is lying ahead, and just the mere sharing of the information and having the information broadly available to students is of utmost importance. If the Office of the Registrar is responsive to the needs of students, it not only serves, or it will not only create a relationship of mutual respect between the institution and its students, but it will also ultimately, and this is something I feel very strongly about, prevent a lot of problems that may occur when students or student organizations and university management are at loggerheads. Without a relationship of mutual respect and trust, a university will not be able to deal with issues coming up like the NSFAS Nuraku issue we are dealing with at the moment. If we don't have that existing relationship, positive, strong relationship between management and students, it would be just so much more difficult to engage with our students constructively. Pardon. Of course, the Office of the Registrar will also be the bearer of bad news to some students. But I also have the opinion that there are ways and ways. If this office really wants to project itself as part of a caring institution, it will take care whenever it communicates with students, whether it's the bearer of the good news or the bad news that your studies will be placed on hold, or that you are facing academic termination if you don't shape up, and how can we assist you to refer you to the necessary support structures. Although the strategic plan specifically refers to third stream income in the context of being an entrepreneurial university, the overall objective is to ensure financial sustainability. And my submission is that the Office of the Registrar has a large role to play here, because if the administration of the university is conducted in a financially responsible and accountable way, it will already go a long way in ensuring financial sustainability. And I am sure that the CFO would have the exact expenses of the Office of the Registrar and ideas on how it could possibly be optimized. As I said, the main focus of the Office of the Registrar, of course, lies in and around strategic thrust number 3, around governance and outstanding scholarship. And each and every one of these strategic objectives are the core functions of the Office of the Registrar. And I'm not going to repeat them to you. You are well aware of what those are. What I, in other words, see the registrar doing is taking the strategy and making it work. And how does a registrar do that? A registrar does that by managing and implementing all the processes to ensure that a student's academic life cycle is optimally supported. In other words, the role of the registrar is not being it would always be not the lead actor. It would not be Barbie, it would be Ken. It would be the support needed for the institution and its students and its other parts to shine. From application, admission, registration, scheduling, assessments, and the whole organization around that, verification of assessments and student records, and certification in the end. The role of the registrar is to make sure that this is done 100% correctly, that we do that in a way that is, referring back to the values, transparent, with integrity, being fully accountable for the section, and then also bearing in mind that we are rendering a service to the broader university community, service to the students, service to the staff. Of course, a registrar is the custodian of the university's records, and as such would also serve as a secretariat for, of course, the management committee meetings, the council meetings, etc. And a very strong indicator in the role is the reporting ability. Not just the formal reporting, but also the informal reporting, both to internal and external stakeholders. And these include our communities, our prospective students, current students, alumni, donors, etc. Of course, government in all its forms, and the Department of Higher Education, etc. Very important aspect, of course, is also legal compliance and contract management. That the Registrar's Office has the oversight function of, and where the margin for error is very small. If we go back to the little picture of the station, if we schedule 2 trains to arrive on the same platform, there will be catastrophic consequences. If we let the ball drop with compliance and our legal obligations, the consequences for the institution will be severe. And it's the role of the registrar to ensure in the first place that this does not happen. Through proper planning, through proper management of all the processes in the office, that situations like that are preferably avoided. And then, in the last instance, the role regarding the governance of student affairs and student discipline. As I've stated before, in this instance, I highly believe, or I truly believe, in the establishment of strong relationships of trust and respect between management and the student population, but also amongst colleagues and amongst the stakeholders within the university. My contribution, and I'm not a very good seller. There's a very good reason I went into law and into education and not into selling. So I'll do my best here. I think that I have a lot of knowledge and experience in the higher education environment. My qualifications are mainly legal and also philosophical. I have a master's in philosophy, but also in law. And my speciality, my fields of speciality are administrative law and educational law, albeit primary and secondary education law. I'm working on the tertiary education law as well. Educational, I've been lecturing for years. I've been involved in management since my late 20s. I have a lot of experience in particularly management in the higher education sector within a faculty, and at the moment, as I said, in the office of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor in a multi-campus institution, playing a coordinating management role, dealing in the role mainly with the directors and managers of the various support departments in the university and in the faculties. I not only have a qualification but also experience in mediation, and would describe myself as a mediator at heart, because very often in life, even two directly opposed parties will find a common ground. If a common goal is established, it is always possible to negotiate a solution to the benefit of all parties. I have the experience in higher education governance in all these roles, and I've been especially involved in our in the Faculty of Law's process to get the LLB accredited. You may remember that the Northwest University was served with a notice of withdrawal of accreditation, and at that stage I was appointed as the project manager to draft and implement the project plan, and the LLB was fully accredited soon after. Besides the roles that I have had in the Faculty of Law, which are management roles, the Director of Undergraduate Qualifications being the last one, and the one in the Office of the DVC, I've also been a house parent to 260 young men over the last 2.5 years. I live right next to a building that is very busy, and especially after 12 at night. But what this has taught me, and what this has helped me, is to really see the university from the view of the student as well. And being involved in student life governance in that way, and being involved with the daily lives of our students, I've really, I think, changed. I've definitely changed my view of what a university should and definitely can be. University is an incredible force for change. And I'm not sure that we always remember that as university management. At university, people's lives are changed, but not just people's lives. Whole families, whole communities' lives are changed. We are working with a generation of first-generation students who bear an incredibly heavy burden, and the burden of expectations of the family, of the community on them. And they really are working very, very hard to succeed. And that is something that university managers and often lecturers even don't always appreciate, the immense pressure that our students are under. In that regard, we obviously have to deal with a lot of disciplinary matters. Young men are incredibly creative when it comes to things to do that are not exactly according to the rules, so one also has to be strict and firm, but always with a caring heart and a caring approach. I do not have direct experience in the office of the registrar. My experience is from student life, from management in an educational environment in a faculty of law, albeit stretching or spanning 3 campuses. I was involved when the faculty, the separate faculties in the merged institution were combined, the transition. We had to do a lot of work to get people on board, to get the whole principle of teamwork and support and relationships sorted out, having students interact, making this all work together. And I believe that these skills and these traits and experience that I have are transferable. I've been involved over the last 18 months as part of the university's project management team to implement the new student information system, and we work closely with the registrar and deputy, particularly the deputy registrar, Prof. Timani, on the project. New information system being implemented and hopefully to roll out partially with 4 applications in 2024 and then 4 senior registrations in 2025. I would like to think that the communication skills required in the position can be met, both verbal and written. Done a lot of report writing, a lot of lecturing, a lot of speaking and writing articles. If somebody has to ask me what my one strong point is, I would say I always give my best. I take my work very seriously, and I'm committed to ensure that if I organize something, it's well set up and that it's managed and implemented properly. And then lastly, but in my view, probably the most important, I am almost to the point of being faulted for being so optimistic, really enthusiastic about the future of higher education in South Africa. I'm enthusiastic about our current generation of students and what they can and will do at our universities, but more importantly, in their productive adult years. I think our country is on the verge of a great shift, and our youth are the key to making our country a different, better place, and we have a major role to play as universities in ensuring that it happens. I hope I made it in time, sir. All that remains at this stage is to say thank you, and I will gladly engage with comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. We'll now engage with the question from the university community. Thank you.
Thank you. There are a few questions coming from the floor. The first one is, if you were to choose between the SRC and the Executive Management Committee, what would you do?
Ma'am, to do a dance or to to do a dance or to fund a project? Because no, I'm joking. Obviously, and like I've already said, I think in life there are very few choices where you need to say the one or the other to the exclusion of the other. I do believe in establishing good, strong relationships. I do believe that in an environment where people are willing to listen to each other and are willing to respect each other's opinions, we can find a mutual goal and a mutual endpoint. We can negotiate an option where it will not be necessary to choose the one or the other, but that will suit both parties.
Thank you. How will you deal with the pandemic of staff members making prospective students pay for admission into the university?
Oh yes, that was in the news. By the way, I think it was also the only bad news I've ever read about the University of UNIVEN. So it is actually a compliment to the university, to the institution, that it's in the news for all the good reasons and not for the bad reasons. So, but most definitely investigate the matter. Like everything in life, a story always has more than one side. Get the facts on the table and, of course, address it through a disciplinary process with a staff member, and ensure that the communication going out to the broader community is very clear, that the university would not tolerate any similar conduct in future.
Thank you. What plans do you have to ensure that admission and registration of students is flawless and we don't get leftovers from rich universities?
That's a very good question. May I just have a sip of water before I get to that? Thank you. I think, ma'am, my first strategy would be to ensure that we reach our enrollment targets before the end of the current academic year for the next academic year. And the way you do that is to have proper communication with your applicants, to take them on your communication route already when they are in grade 12, that they have an established relationship with the institution so that they prefer, that it remains their preferred institution. So that would be step number one. Step number two, and I think the University of Venda already has quite stringent admission criteria, which is more stringent than some other universities. Yes, it is quite stringent, is have a look whether some of those actually deter students, but I've also learned through experience that higher admission criteria often have the opposite effect of drawing students, because they believe that, if it's more difficult, it's more attractive to go there. And perhaps have a look at how that influences the registration. In the third place, the registration process itself should be properly planned and properly communicated beforehand. I've seen in institutions where something happens in the registration process that the panic surrounding the interruptions in registration are sometimes worse than the disruption itself or the effect of the disruption. So it's crucial that students and staff know if something goes wrong in our registration period, if we are stuck without electricity for 3 days and our generators have run out of diesel, what will the institution do? So that we avert the panic, that a student doesn't think, oh, I'm never going to get registered here, let me rather go to Tux or wherever else. So those would be my 3 strategies.
How will you handle the exam office constantly delaying students' research projects?
May I ask, delay in which regard, ma'am?
I don't know. The question came as it is, how will you handle the exam office constantly delaying students' research projects?
Do I understand it correctly that the delay would be in getting results? Okay, good. It's important to have realistic timeframes, and being in academia now for more than a quarter of a century, I think what a lot of universities do is they do count the days between the 16th of December and the 1st of January as days where external examiners have to mark dissertations and theses. And in real life, it doesn't happen, because that is the 3-week period where academics switch off and are not busy with it. So I would, in the first instance, go and have a look at the submission date and whether the submission date and the submission period for the examiners are realistic. And why I'm saying this whole Christmas thing is normally most institutions send you the thesis or the research project in the first week of December, when you are busy marking, you're overwhelmed with your own marking, expecting to have a result by the 10th of January. And if one could, in one way or another, work around that by either sending it earlier and having an earlier deadline, or by extending the submission date and having the examiners submit it, but then being very strict about that date, I would do that. And what the it's not a unique problem at the Northwest University. We have now also an extra graduation ceremony to make provision for that, because even if all the preventative measures are taken, you still are stuck with some external examiners who do not adhere to the submission dates. So what the university has done is, especially for postgraduates, there's an autumn ceremony, there's a spring ceremony, and now for the last few years we also have a winter ceremony to allow those students to graduate without being penalized or having to require them to register for an additional year.
Last questions. What strategies would you employ to handle peak registration periods and avoid bottlenecks or delays in the system? And the last one, what is the largest population of students you have administered?
Okay, can I answer the last one first? When I was at the Faculty of Law, we had about 1,500 students that I was directly involved in the academic management and administration with. At the university at the moment, we have, like I said, 65,000 students, 55,000 are contact students. I don't administer them directly. I work with the deans, deputy deans, teaching, learning, and I also work with the student academic representatives. So on that level, I work with them. So that's the first answer. The other one was about bottlenecks and delays in registration. Am I right? Yes. Of course, preparation is always the key. And preparation should not just be preparation of Plan A. Preparation should be preparation Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. Plan A is if everything works according to plan. Matric results are released on the projected date. All the NSFAS applications are processed in time. All the NSFAS appeals are processed in time, and we know that that hardly ever happens. So contingency Plan B should already be in place immediately after Plan A. And I would venture to go as far as saying contingency Plan C as well. So preparation, and having those contingency plans beforehand and communicating them. And at that stage, I think we can hope and pray for the best. Then we've done what we could.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Thanks for the time again once more in your presentation. We will meet in the next session, wherein the panelists themselves will be posing questions to yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. May I take the water? Thank you.
Is lunch ready? I suggest we do lunch and then come back. Yeah, I would like us just to, when we come back, just have a short caucus in terms of the questions, sort of streamline the questions.
So should we come back at 2:45?
Yeah, I mean, if it's ready now, so 1:45 to 10 to, we'll come back. Yeah, 1:45 we'll come back.